Gal Gadot played the evil queen in her latest movie, the live-action Disney remake of Snow White. This role marked her first time playing a villain, and is a departure from her previous roles as a hero, like Wonder Woman. However, her performance as an evil queen has been met with widespread criticism for her acting, with many finding her wooden, lacking depth, and failing to embody the character's menace and power.
I said enough and enough! Enough!
The lack of engagement with the character's dramatic potential had many viewers and critics questioning, can she play evil? But more importantly, has Gal Gadot ever actually acted well in anything? Because honestly, it's starting to look like the answer might be no. And that's not a cheap jab. That's a fair question after more than a decade of Hollywood trying to convince us otherwise. Snow White was supposed to be her big stretch, a villain role, a total transformation. But what we got instead felt more like Gal Gadot cosplaying as evil, not embodying it. There was no danger, no tension, not even a flicker of that delicious theatrical wickedness this role practically begs for. The truth is, Gal Gadot has always looked like a movie star, and that's exactly how she got away with not acting like one. From Wonder Woman to Red Notice, from Death on the Nile to Heart of Stone. The pattern is the same. She shows up, looks stunning, delivers her lines like she's reading off a teleprompter in her second language, and lets the rest of the movie do the heavy lifting. And somehow, we've all been nodding along like that's enough. But it's not anymore. When Wonder Woman came out in 2017, it was a cultural moment. People were desperate for a female superhero who wasn't just a sidekick. And Gal fit the bill. Tall, poised, vaguely mysterious, with a military background and a strong jawline. She was aspirational, not relatable. And at the time, that worked. We weren't asking for nuance. We were just excited she wasn't Megan Fox in a corset. But here's the thing. When you go back and rewatch it, her performance doesn't hold up. Sure, she looks heroic walking in slow motion, but when the scene requires actual emotion, grief, passion, moral conflict, she gives you nothing. That heartbreaking goodbye to Steve Trevor, it was supposed to wreck you. Instead, it felt like she was running late to yoga. One tear, blank face, whispered line. And Wonder Woman 1984, that was her chance to evolve, to show depth. But instead of leveling up, her acting regressed. The entire film is full of moments where you expect her to finally break through emotionally, and she just doesn't. Her eyes stay empty, her voice stays flat, and the emotional climax lands with all the force of a soft breeze. At some point, you start to wonder, how many chances does one person get? Red Notice should have been a slam dunk. A globe-trotting action comedy with Dwayne Johnson and Ryan Reynolds, two of the most charismatic guys in the industry. But Gal looked like she'd accidentally wandered onto the wrong set and decided to wing it. While the guys were cracking jokes and playing off each other's energy, Gal stood there, delivering her lines like she was learning them phonetically. And let's not forget Death on the Nile, a film that required subtlety, complexity, and emotional stakes. But Gal, once again, floated through it like a department store mannequin. Her delivery of enough champagne to fill the Nile was so off.
And enough champagne to fill the Nile.
It went viral for being accidentally hilarious. Not because the line was bad, but because her delivery made it sound like she was ordering a drink at brunch. In Heart of Stone, Netflix practically built the movie around her. She was the star, the producer, the face of the franchise. This was it, her chance to own a role, top to bottom. And somehow, it made her look even more out of her depth. Every emotional beat felt like she was reading a script for the first time. No urgency, no fear, no fire. Just blank stares and breathy line reads. And yet, they're still trying to sell her as the next James Bond. At this point, even the trailer voiceovers are starting to sound embarrassed. So how did we get here? How did an actress with such little range, such consistently weak performances, end up as one of the most famous faces in Hollywood? Because she fits the image. That's it. She looks like a hero. She looks like royalty. She looks like she should be on posters. And for years, that was enough. In a shallow industry obsessed with branding and optics, Gal Gadot became the ultimate aesthetic. The illusion of talent, perfectly lit from the right angle. But acting isn't lighting. It's not cheekbones and a sword. Acting needs soul and vulnerability. And Gal never brought any of that. And yet, she just got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. No, seriously. While Snow White was still being torn apart online for her lifeless evil queen, she was out there posing on a sidewalk plaque. cementing her status as a legend. It seems crazy to me that Hollywood legends like Robert De Niro or Clint Eastwood don't have stars on Walk of Fame, but Gal Gadot got one. No way. And honestly, that's kind of perfect, because if Gal Gadot's career has taught us anything, is that in Hollywood, you don't need talent to be celebrated, you just need enough people willing to pretend. Because people have started asking the uncomfortable questions out loud. Not just, is Gal Gadot a good actress? But was she ever supposed to be one? Maybe she was never cast to move us. Maybe she was cast to look good while pretending to move us. Well, audiences are smarter now. We've seen what actual range looks like. Florence Pugh can go from simmering rage to gut-wrenching grief in a single shot. Zendaya can collapse into a character and leave you staring at the screen long after the credits roll. Meanwhile, Gal Gadot's big dramatic moments still feel like someone asked her to say it again, but louder. And it's not like she's new to this. This isn't early career stiffness. She's been working with top-tier directors, lead roles, global campaigns, the full Hollywood machine. It does seem if she were going to grow, we'd have seen it by now. But instead, we've just seen more of the same. Different outfits, same blank delivery, and at some point, you stop calling it style and start calling it what it really is, a performance problem. And don't get me wrong, Gal Gadot has become the cinematic version of a really well-designed ad campaign. The branding is beautiful, but the product, kinda useless. You can't blame her for taking the roles. Any actor would. The checks are huge, the press is glowing, the fans are forgiving. But what you can blame is the system that keeps pushing her forward, as if we're not all sitting in the theater thinking the same thing. She's just not good. And look, not every actor has to be Daniel Day-Lewis, but when you're handed some of the most iconic roles in pop culture like Wonder Woman, you better bring something more than good posture and a squint. Because we've seen what it looks like when real performers take those same roles. Cate Blanchett as Hela in Thor Ragnarok, Charlize Theron in Snow White and the Huntsman, even Angelina Jolie as Maleficent. They brought weight, power, actual menace. You believed they could ruin lives with a smile. Gal Gadot walks into the room, threatens the protagonist, and you just want to hand her a latte and ask if she needs a break. And yet, she keeps getting opportunities that should be going to hungrier, more capable actors who are still waiting for their breakout moment. Hollywood keeps recycling her, like it's terrified to admit they made a mistake. But here's the thing about overexposure. Eventually, it backfires. People can only be sold the same glossy illusion for so long before they start seeing the cracks. And in Gal's case, those cracks are no longer subtle. They're the entire performance. Yeah. It's not just her recent roles either. Go back through her whole filmography and try to find scenes where she disappears into the character, where you forget you're watching Gal Gadot, the celebrity, and believe you're watching a real person with fear, desire, confusion, heartbreak. You can't, because she doesn't transform. She just shows up, and she lets the lighting and music do the rest. So when the evil queen fell flat, it didn't surprise anyone who's been paying attention. This wasn't a bad fit. This was Gal Gadot being Gal Gadot, in yet another role she never should have been cast in. And maybe that's the most frustrating part. Not just that she keeps getting cast, but that we keep pretending it's a good idea, that we keep watching interviewers nod along as she talks about exploring new sides of herself, when we all know she's going to deliver the exact same performance she did the last 5 times. So where does that leave us? Honestly, right where we started, with a beautiful woman in a crown, looking confused about how she ended up here. And the answer is simple, because Hollywood loves an illusion. And for a long time, Gal Gadot was the perfect one. She made them look progressive, international, high fashion, and forward-thinking, all while demanding almost nothing in return. No range, no risk, no soul. Gal Gadot isn't a villain. She's not some evil mastermind manipulating her way to stardom. She's just an average actress in an extraordinary costume, surrounded by people who were too afraid to say, hey, this really isn't working. But now they don't have to, because the audience is saying it for them.